What are the greatest key to unlocking hidden realms of energy, awareness, and healing was not found in some distant temple or sacred scripture, but already within you, disguised as something you do over 20,000 times a day without even noticing. Inhale, exhale. Seems simple, doesn't it? But in ancient temples, secret initiations, and whispered oral traditions, breath was never considered simple. It was sacred. It was a bridge between the visible and invisible, the body and the soul, the mundane and the divine. There are old scrolls that spoke of prana, the life force carried on the breath. Yogic sages described it as a serpent sleeping at the base of the spine, awaiting breath to awaken it. Taoist mystics saw breath as a dragon's path, the winding channel through which chi flows. Even in early Christian mysticism, breath was synonymous with pneuma, the spirit, the divine wind of life. But here's the mystery. Not all breathing is created equal. There is passive breathing, the unconscious autopilot your body uses to stay alive. And then there's intentional breathing, conscious, deliberate, sacred breathwork that can reshape your mental state, harmonize your energy fields, and even shift the electromagnetic patterns of your heart and brain. You are about to uncover forgotten power hidden in this ancient act. Not just how to breathe, but how to breathe with intention, like the initiates of old. In this video, we'll explore the ancient philosophies and esoteric sciences behind breath, dissect its deeper metaphysical functions, and reveal practical techniques you can apply today to reclaim this inner alchemy. Because to breathe with intention is to remember who you really are. Long before modern science peered into the mechanics of lungs and oxygen exchange, the ancients understood something deeper, something modern minds are just beginning to rediscover. Across every culture, across every continent, breath was not just a biological function. It was a sacred current, a vessel of consciousness, and a language of the soul. In Sanskrit, the word prana does not merely mean breath. It means life force, the animating essence that moves through all things. It is said that prana rides a breath like a chariot rides a wind. In the yogic texts, mastering the breath meant mastering energy itself. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika, a 15th century text, proclaims, when the breath wanders, the mind is unsteady, but when the breath is still, so is the mind. In Taoism, breath is the key to cultivating qi, the subtle life energy that flows through meridians of the body. Taoist sages developed breathing practices like embryonic breathing, where the practitioner breathes so slowly and deeply that the breath becomes imperceptible, mimicking the tranquil state of a fetus in a womb, connected to cosmic essence, beyond the grasp of death. The ancient Egyptians believed in a divine breath called Ka, the spiritual double of a person. Ka was sustained through ritual and breath, and after death, only those who had purified their breath and life force could ascend to the eternal fields. For them, breath was a soul practice. Even in the mystical branches of Christianity and Judaism, breath was holy. In the book of Genesis, God breathes into Adam's nostrils a ruach, the divine wind or spirit, and Adam becomes a living soul. In Hebrew, neshama means both breath and soul. The breath is not just proof of life, it is life. In the shamanic traditions of the Americas and Siberia, breath is the vehicle for spirit travel. Shamans use controlled breathing rhythms to enter trance states, traverse the unseen realms, and retrieve lost fragments of the soul. The sound of breathing becomes a drumbeat, a gateway between the worlds. And in ancient mystery schools, be they Eleusinian, Hermetic, or Gnostic, initiation rituals always included breath. Controlled breath was used to prepare the initiate's body for higher frequencies, to align the subtle bodies, and to open channels of perception beyond the ordinary senses. Why did so many unconnected cultures revere the breath in such similar, sacred ways? Because they weren't observing from the outside, they were experiencing it from within. They understood what modern seekers are only now beginning to glimpse. Breath is not just what keeps you alive. It is the bridge between form and formlessness. It is the sacred river between the worlds. And to walk that bridge with awareness is to awaken the divine spark sleeping within your chest. To understand intentional breathing is to understand the architecture of consciousness itself. You may think breath begins and ends with the lungs, but in the language of the ancients, and now, increasingly, in the findings of neuroscience, breath is far more than a simple biological rhythm. It is the master key to the hidden doorways of the mind, body, and spirit. Let's begin with something deceptively simple: inhalation and exhalation. On the surface, it's just they're going in and out. But when you breathe with intention, you activate a system that links the physical and the energetic, the conscious and the unconscious. Take the vagus nerve, for instance, a massive highway of information that runs from your brain down through your organs. When you breathe deeply and slowly, you stimulate this nerve, triggering what's known as the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural state of rest, repair, and regeneration. In this state, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, and your immune system strengthens. It's as if the body remembers its original blueprint, a state of sacred balance. This is the biological door, but it opens into much stranger rooms. Intentional breathing also affects the electrical fields around the heart and brain. Studies show that when you breathe rhythmically, especially in patterns like box breathing, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, you bring coherence to your heart's electromagnetic field. And since the heart's field is 60 times stronger electrically and 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain's, this coherence begins to entrain the brain itself. Think of it as tuning the body like a sacred instrument. The breath is your tuning fork. The result? A harmony between thought, feeling, and body that feels like inner alignment. Now consider brainwave states. Most people operate in beta, a frantic, chattering mind. But with certain breathing patterns, like 4-7-8 breathing or extended exhales, you begin to descend into alpha and even theta states, the gateways to creativity, intuition, and mystical insight. Ancient monks didn't just breathe slowly because they were calm. They were using the breath as a frequency dial, tuning their consciousness to realms beyond the veil. There's also the energetic anatomy to consider. In the yogic system, the breath is a means by which prana is moved through the nadis, the invisible energy channels of the subtle body. With conscious breathing, you begin to unblock stagnant energy, awaken dormant centers, and activate the chakras. Each breath, a spark of light traveling through the invisible circuitry of your being. And when breath becomes rhythmic and focused, the third eye, that mysterious gland called the pineal, begins to awaken. This gland is filled with tiny crystals, responsive to electromagnetic shifts. The ancients knew that intentional breath could stimulate the pineal, cause it to secrete natural DMT, the spirit molecule, and open gateways to expanded consciousness. Modern research into Wim Hof and other breath pioneers is now proving what mystics have always claimed. Breath is the bridge to altered states. So here we are, standing at the threshold of an ancient temple with a modern map. The breath is no longer just a survival mechanism. It is a spiritual tool, a neurological switch, a cosmic code waiting to be unlocked. And the key is not in complexity, but in conscious simplicity. In every mystery school of antiquity, from the high temples of Egypt to the cave monasteries of the Himalayas, breath was never treated as mere respiration. It was ritual, it was alchemy, and it was a portal. Let's go deeper into what this actually means. To the ancient Egyptians, breath was a vehicle of the Ka and the Ba, the two aspects of the soul. The Ka, our vital essence, is sustained by the breath. The Ba, the soul's personality or consciousness, could leave the body to the breath in moments of trance or death. Thus, the very act of breathing was regarded as a sacred communion with the divine, and certain rhythmic patterns were taught to initiates to allow them to traverse realms, not metaphorically but experientially. In yogic systems, the sacred science is known as pranayama, not just breath control, but the expansion of life force. Yogis discovered that the breath could move prana with surgical precision. Different techniques serve different alchemical purposes. Kapalabhati or skull shining breath, to awaken the mind and stimulate internal fire. Annulum violum, or alternate nostril breathing, to balance the hemispheres of the brain and energies of the body. Brahmari, the hummingbee breath, to activate the third eye with sonic resonance. Each breath was a coded ritual, a technology, to transmute the lead of unconsciousness into the gold of awakening. But what if these practices weren't just for monks in caves or priests in temples? Let's reframe intentional breathing as the original form of magic, the shaping of invisible forces through will. When you breathe consciously, you are sculpting time, slowing reality, directing energy. You are telling your nervous system, your emotional body, and your soul, I am here. I am choosing to be awake. It's like the tuning of a vast, multi-stringed instrument. When you breathe unconsciously, your inner symphony is chaotic, each string pulled in a different direction. But with each intentional breath, you begin to tune those strings until your body resonates like a cathedral of coherence, humming with clarity. This is why in many indigenous traditions, breath is intimately tied to spirit communication. In the Amazon, shamans use breath, not just smoke or song, to call spirits. In Siberia, breath is used to animate ritual objects. Even in Christian tradition, the Holy Spirit is described as a breath of God, ruach in Hebrew, pneuma in Greek. So here's the esoteric twist. The breath is not just a bridge between the conscious and unconscious. It is a vehicle of intention. Your thoughts ride on it. Your focus shapes it. And as you exhale, you release not just carbon dioxide, but energy, emotion, will. The breath becomes your offering to the universe. Modern science is beginning to catch up. Research shows that intentional breath affects gene expression, emotional regulation, even pain perception. But behind these facts is a more ancient truth. We are creators of reality, and the breath is our wand. So ask yourself, what am I breathing into existence? What inner worlds am I inflating with each inhale? What old stories am I exhaling, letting go like dying stars in the cosmos of my body? Because if the breath is the portal, then intention is the traveler. And with enough presence, you can walk between worlds, one breath at a time. You don't need a monastery. You don't need an ancient temple. You don't even need silence, only awareness. The hidden power of intentional breathing begins the moment you remember that you are not just breathing. You are participating in the invisible symphony of existence. Let's ground all the mysticism into practice. Here are 3 core techniques you can begin today to unlock the transformative power of intentional breath. 1. The presence breath anchoring into now. This is your baseline. Whenever the mind is spinning, the emotions are surging, or the energy feels scattered, return to the presence breath. How? Inhale deeply through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale slowly through the mouth for 6 to 8 counts. Pause for 2 before the next inhale. Why? This breathing rhythm activates the parasympathetic nervous system, grounding you instantly. It tells your body, I am safe. I am present. Use it when you feel overwhelmed, unfocused, or emotionally reactive. It's your psychic anchor. 2. The intention breath, charging thought into force. This is where breath becomes magic. The intention breath allows you to imbue your exhale with focus, clarity, and direction. How? Sit comfortably. On the inhale, mentally or softly whisper your chosen intention, e.g., I choose clarity. On the exhale, imagine that intention flowing out with your breath, spiraling through your body, into your field, and out into the world. Repeat for 3 to 10 rounds. Why? You're merging mind and breath, turning a passive thought into a vibrational directive. This is ancient spellcraft through breath. Use it when you need to realign with purpose, clarity, or manifest a specific outcome. 3. The energy breath, cultivating inner power. In Eastern traditions, this is akin to charging the lower dantian, the energy battery of your body. How? Stand or sit with your spine straight. Breathe slowly and deeply into your belly. You should feel expand outward. With each inhale, visualize golden light filling your lower abdomen. On the exhale, feel that light condense, becoming denser, warmer, stronger. Do this for 5 to 10 minutes. Why? This practice strengthens your energetic body. Over time, it builds a subtle power that affects your presence, intuition, and inner stability. Use it when you feel drained, foggy, or in need of energetic resilience. Overcoming common challenges. If you find yourself forgetting to breathe intentionally, that's not failure, it's feedback. The mind, conditioned by stress and noise, will always try to pull you into the shallow end of unconscious breath. Here's how to reclaim your depth. Set hourly reminders labeled, "Are you breathing?" Place subtle visual cues in your space. Symbols, words, or colors that trigger breath awareness. Before speaking, before entering a room, before making a decision, take one conscious breath. It's the difference between reaction and presence. And remember, perfection isn't the point, presence is. Even one intentional breath is a crack in the wall of unconsciousness. A single inhale, done with awareness, is enough to open a door. In the end, breathing is not something we do. It is something we become aware of, and in that awareness, we find the sacred. Every inhale is a return to the source. Every exhale, a release of illusion. The breath is your teacher, your compass, your forgotten magic. All it asks is your attention. Every day, the sacred passes through you unnoticed. From the first gasp of a newborn to the last sigh of the dying, breath is a silent thread that binds your entire story. But within that rhythm, inhale, exhale, lies a secret. You are never more than one conscious breath away from transformation. We began this journey with a question. What if something as ordinary as breath held extraordinary power? Along the way, we uncovered that the ancients knew what modern science is only beginning to rediscover, that breath is both physical and spiritual, biological and divine. We explore its roots in ancient mystery schools, where sages use breath as a ladder to ascend the soul. We examined the invisible mechanics of how intention charges air with meaning. We learned that with every mindful inhale, we draw in more than oxygen. We draw in presence, clarity, and life force. And with every exhale, we don't just release carbon dioxide. We release the past, the tension, the illusion of separation. And perhaps the most profound realization, you don't need to go anywhere. You don't need a guru, a temple, or an initiation. The secret doorway has always been right beneath your nose. Literally. Just breathe as you go back to your life, your relationships, your work, your chaos. Carry this with you. The breath is your sacred ally. It doesn't demand rituals or robes. Only attention. Only presence. Only your willingness to remember. So the next time you feel lost, distracted, or disconnected, pause and take a breath like it matters, because it does. And if you ever forget, that's okay. Just begin again. One inhale, one exhale. That's all it takes to come home to yourself. Thank you for walking this path with me. If this video stirred something ancient in you, something quiet but powerful, share it. Breathe it into someone else's world. And tell me in the comments, what did you feel when you became aware of your breath? Truly aware. Until next time, stay awake, stay aligned, and remember, you are the breath, and the breath is the bridge to the divine.